Good morning, Democrats. Are we ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Woo! We got a big year this year. We got big months coming up. We got a lot of fight ahead of us. And I can't wait because I spoil for a fight. Oh, give me a reason. Give me a reason. If I had long sleeves, I'd have them rolled up by now. Oh. All right, we're going to begin with the thing that infuriates the MAGA the most when we all say the Pledge of Allegiance because we love our country too. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's right. Love of country is what brings us out here. Love of country is what gets us out of bed on a Saturday morning and makes us come and listen to people like me. This is a big year we've got coming up. You know this. The fate of our republic is going to hinge on the things that happen in Georgia. And we know that there are overt efforts to take this election away from us, to deprive us of our ballot, to deprive us of our vote. And that's why it's so fundamental that we work from the top of the ballot down to the very last box to elect Democrats in every single race. Today, one of our guests is going to be from the campaign for Peter Hubbard. And I love Peter because he is a geek about the thing that he wants to geek out about. You talk to a man who knows how the Public Service Commission operates, its history, its foundation in regulating railroads, all the way up to controlling Georgia Power's utility rates. And he knows it inside and out. And that's the kind of person that you want in your court. That's the kind of person you want representing you. And it's been funny to me, I don't know if you've watched enough television lately to see that Georgia Power is spending an awful lot of money to tell you that they're not raising your utility rates. Guys, it does not take a marketing campaign to get, I have never had a man in a hard hat and Georgia Power shirt show up at my door to tell me they're not raising my utility rates. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. So what's their incentive then? Why spend money that you shouldn't have to spend? You're a monopoly, okay? You don't get to pick your power company. You may be able to pick your internet company, but your power company is whatever it says, right? You don't get to pick your water company either. It is what it is. So why spend all of this money to convince you that they are the good guys? We know that they structured a plan ahead of Peter Hubbard's and Dr. Johnson's election to raise race after a certain amount of time. And the Public Service Commission, before Peter and Dr. Johnson were able to take their seats, rushed that through. Because that's the way the Republicans like to operate, right? If you can't win honest, win dirty. Every time. And it's bizarre to me that we should have to be the grown-ups in the room and the ones who are following the rules. That we are the ones who are trying to conduct business on the up and up for the public good. And that we have an aversion to doing things underhand, to doing things backroom. That we are trying to do our level best to operate in the sunshine. But that's what coming from being a Democrat means, is you're not doing this for your own, you're doing this for all. We do this for all. It's a collective effort. And I'm desperately hoping that my speaker will show up any minute now. Because you see I'm kind of self-shoeing it up here. I do want to go ahead, before I turn things over to Ross for an update from the state convention, and thank you, sir, for going. I've been to state conventions before, and they're hot, and the food's not great. So, but A couple of things I want to say beforehand. One, there is a wills clinic that Democratic probate judge Valerie Vai is going to be hosting on Saturday, August 15th at 10 a.m. at the Jesse Davis Community Center. Again, that's August 15th, a wills clinic. I'm getting closer and closer to needing one of those myself. Day by day, man, day by day. But that's going to be at Jesse Davis Community Center on August 15th at 10 a.m. Commissioner Henry Mitchell is going to host a town hall on data centers, which was another reason that we wanted the PSC folks to come out and talk to us today. That will be on August 26th at 6 p.m. in Citizens Hall at the Douglas County Courthouse. And the guests that he have, I think, will make us more erudite when we're discussing data centers going forward, because they make a convenient boogeyman. They are not from the top level, a great thing, but at the same time, you're going to have, what poison do you live with? And I hope that we're going to be able to get some enlightenment from the speakers at Commissioner Mitchell's thing. That'll be August 26th, 6 p.m., Citizens Hall at the Douglas County Courthouse. And also, last but not least, I'm going to implore you all to join us on August 18th for the Board of Commissioners meeting, where it appears that the museum is once again pulling itself out of its tomb and dragging itself into the public sphere. That meeting will be at 6 p.m. And if you have any questions about the museum, because I know it sounds like, why would you not want a museum? Well, it's not the museum, it's the way that it's organized, structured, and has been operating for almost 30 years. Non-compliant. It's not great. And the fact that the same people keep coming up again and again and again going, well, trust us now. Like, Lucy, I ain't kicking that football again. I know. I've walked this road before. So again, that will be August 18th at 6 p.m. in Citizens Hall at the Douglas County Courthouse. The agenda for that meeting will be set the day before at 10 a.m. during a work session. So both of those, ma'am.
Make sure they show up at least 15 minutes early in time to sign up. If you're late, they move the sheet, you won't get to speak, but you need to step up and speak, not just sit there. We need voices. Even if you just say, I'm against it, I'm for it, whatever your opinion is, but please come and speak.
Yep. Please show up, turn out, and wear blue. Sir.
I was going to say, also come to the work session on Monday, the 17th, at 10 a.m. to also have an opportunity to voice your concerns, because Monday you'll get a chance to talk about something that's not on the agenda. It's not germane to the agenda. So please encourage everyone to come Monday at 10 a.m.
Yes. 10 a.m. Monday, public comment. All right. That was all the announcements I had for right now. May I turn over the floor for an update on our state convention?
Here comes Terry. You're safe.
Yay!
Do you want to go there first?
For he is a jolly good fellow, for he is a jolly good... Thank you.
Do you want to go there first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you all very, very much for electing me and allowing me and June to go to Savannah and enjoy what was an enjoyable event. The speeches that I heard were what I would expect to hear, but they were presented so well. And the one that sticks in my mind, my 79-year-old mind, which remembers something, was the lady that got up with the salt and pepper hair. She stood about this tall. I forget what she was running for, and I forget her name, but that's 79-year-old memory. But she started off and she said, I went to bed and I was a scientist. And I got up the next morning and I was a mad scientist. And she went on to roast Robert F. Kennedy Jr. clear down to the point where she talked about the fact that she's a scientist and she never licked a toilet seat with cocaine. So all of the presentations were absolutely amazing and certainly reassured everybody that we have a good opportunity upcoming in November. And we had an opportunity to go to some breakout sessions. I went to two of them. One was on social media and got a lot of good information. The other one I chose to go to was the Democratic Jewish Committee, Georgia Democratic Jewish Committee. And I did that because, folks, I'm Jewish, and I'm proud of it. And I listened because I wanted to know what was going on, because I've got friends who are Jewish who support that other organization, which I consider to be following DJT, and I won't say his name, to be the reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. And I don't know why my friends would support that. What we heard on the one part was Senator Ossoff's investigator, who has been looking into Collins' association with his son-in-law, who is a racist, who is an anti-Semite, and the fact that Collins will not get up and say, I distance myself, I want nothing to do, and will not talk about whether or not he has had contractual relations with that person. And I found that to be extremely interesting. And then somebody got up and said, we have to be careful because this lends to this argument about the democratic socialist movement. And that was a rude awakening, because I guess I've had my head in a cloud. And this lady talked about that for a few minutes, because as far as I'm concerned, November is ours. It's ours to lose because we got it if we want it.
Yep, that's right.
But this DSA thing, and look, I happen to believe that Bernie Sanders has some really good things that he wants to accomplish. But I've also looked back, because I'm 79 years old, if I haven't said that before. I looked back and I looked at all the times the Republican Party has been splintered by break-off groups, and it's hurt them. And we're looking at the same thing. And part of what's being driven by this, by the Republicans, to divide us, is the issue over Palestine and Israel. So I'm going to take just a few minutes, if I may, and I'm going to tell you what this Jew thinks about the issue with Palestine and Israel. It hurts. It hurts because my upbringing, what I learned was, we don't do things to hurt innocent people. That means we don't do things to hurt the children and the innocence of Palestine. And we don't do things or allow things to hurt the innocents in Israel. But what do you do? And I'm conflicted about this, folks. And I think every person should be conflicted about this. What do you do when you have Iran saying, we will destroy Israel, we will destroy the Jewish state, we will destroy the Jews, and they control Hezbollah and Hamas and God only knows what else. And that group, for reasons that they would think right, marched into Israel, killed people, killed children, and then took many of them back as hostages. And then they stood there and they took those hostages underground, and they set up their military centers behind those innocent people. They used them as human shields. What does Israel do? You can curse Bibi Netanyahu all you want, but look at it this way. He's being chastised, he's being hollered at by the families of all those people that were taken as hostage, who are held underground and hidden behind innocent people. What does he do? I'm not defending him because I think he's a
war criminal.
I'm not going to say the words. But the bottom line is, what does he do when he's got his people underground and they are being shielded using human shields?
Yeah, but then we're blowing up buses.
So allow me to be conflicted. Allow me to be conflicted.
Okay.
Because it hurts me either way you go. Bottom line is, war doesn't benefit anybody. Hello, DJT, did you hear me when I said that? War doesn't benefit anybody. If you haven't noticed the gas prices, war doesn't benefit any price. If you looked at trying to buy a piece of meat, war doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the people. It benefits those people, Iran, who want power. Not the Iranians. There's good people who are Iranians. There's good people who are Israelites. There's good people who are Palestinians. So hear from this conflicted Jew that I don't know what the answer is. I do know that the Republicans are using that argument to divide us, to keep us divided, so that that opportunity we have in November won't be as easy as it should be. But overall, thank you all so very much for allowing me to be there, because based on what I heard from the speakers, based on the attitude of the people that I sat with, we can only do anything to lose this election because it's ours to walk away with, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Serving on the state committee is a thankless task. When Robin duped me into joining, I was like, so what does that mean? She was like, well, you have to go to these meetings every few months that the state holds. I go, like where? And she was like, well, like Savannah, you know, Warner Robins, super speeder ticket trying to get down there. No. So, Ross, thank you so much for going, and at least you got to go to Savannah. Did you do a ghost tour?
Did what?
Did you do a ghost tour?
No.
Oh, you missed out. Savannah is built on their dead.
But I have been in the past to the cemetery where they filmed Midnight in the Garden.
Bonaventure, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Johnny Mercer's there, too. All right, sorry, I digress. Thank God our featured speaker for today has shown up. I know that this was last minute. We were contacted by one of the PSC campaigns a few weeks ago, and I was like, this is a great opportunity, because if you look at the ballot, the Public Service Commissioner races tend to be further down on the list of state offices because they are elected statewide, but they represent individual districts. So if you've checked enough boxes for senator, governor, lieutenant governor, go through agriculture, labor secretary, eventually you get to the PSC folks. And once you've gone that far, you might as well go ahead and just finish with the county races, including our District 4 candidate, Gil McDougal, who is the Democrat in that race. But as hey, you pick a fight, you win a fight, and you get to fight another day. That's the way this works. But I want to, without any further digression, ask Mr. Terry to please come up and take the podium. He's, again, I can't say enough good things about Peter Hubbard. He is a fantastic man. He has come to our meetings a couple of times in the past, and he helped us mobilize this county in an off-year election where there was a lot of people who didn't even realize that there was an election that year for PSC. And he was willing to step in and do it, even though he was not going to be able to serve a complete term, which means he got to turn around and do this again a few months later, sort of like our beloved Commissioner Whitney Kenner-Jones. So, sir.
Thank you very much.
Turn it over.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Would you grab me one of the PSC cards I brought? I wanted to just refer to that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ted Terry. I'm here as a surrogate for Peter Hubbard and Shelia Edwards, which we refer to lovingly as our PSC Power Ticket. And we're calling it that because it really is a ticket. And I want to just, before I begin with my prepared remarks that Peter and Sheila approved, I want to just go back in time, as you were mentioning, to last year. So does everyone remember last year, that special election for PSC?
Yes.
And it was a little sleepy at first, right? It was the summer, power bills were going up as they do in the summertime because they're summer rates. And folks were starting to ask this question of, wait a second, I thought, didn't we just vote for a president and a Congress and a Senate that were going to deliver on affordability and address inflation? Do y'all remember that election? And shockingly, when the Republicans took power, what did they do? They didn't do anything on inflation or cost of living. They gave billionaires tax breaks, the largest tax breaks we've ever seen in the history of our country, to do what? Pad their pocketbooks and enlarge their bank accounts, while all of us saw our grocery bills, gas bills, rent, medicine, and yes, our power bills go up and up. So the good news is that last November, the people of Georgia said, we've had it. We're not going to buy this anymore. And one thing that you'll see that's going to be on a lot of our literature over the next, is it 87 days until the election? I have a little countdown clock on our website. 87 days is this record of who's been in charge the last 20 years in Georgia. Governor's Mansion, State House, State Senate, and the Public Service Commission. It's all Republicans. It's all Republicans. And I appreciate that the gentleman, our delegate, thank you, sir, for your remarks. There's a lot of issues out there, and some of them are controversial. One thing that actually isn't controversial is the cost of living. And it's something that we as Democrats really need to stay laser focused on. Because what the Republican Party wants us to do is be divided. They want us to fight about all these other issues that are important, but the issue of the day is affordability. And we proved that, and y'all proved that last year when Peter Hubbard and Dr. Elisa Johnson won their election. Let's give y'all yourselves just a round of applause, because I know all of y'all voted and volunteered and worked on that campaign. That vote made an impact, because getting 2 Democrats on what previously was a 5-0 Republican majority on the PSC meant that there's finally someone on the inside of the House, behind the scenes, looking at these documents that Georgia Power, the PSC, that they all read and vote on. And has anyone ever been to the Public Service Commission? Okay, all right, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. It's a really odd institution. It's quasi-judicial. So they do policy, they do legislation within their body, but basically they kind of act as like an appeals court and judges. And so they have expert witnesses, they take testimony, they look at very complex documents. And if you don't know what you're looking at, it's very easy to basically just accept whatever the company tells you. And the company in this case is Georgia Power. And so now that Peter and Elisa are in there, they're asking questions. They're saying, well, wait a second, why are we doing it this way? And despite their best efforts to expose things that are clearly raising our bills, they have not been able to get more than just the 2 votes, right? So it's been powerful for them to motion and second, so they've made counter motions to rate cases, or not rate cases, but fuel cost recovery and storm damage. That was the big legislation hearing they had earlier this month. Failed 2-3. But we were able to raise the issues and to point out that Peter and Elisa are trying to lower our power bills. We're trying to ensure that the corporate profits don't take precedent over our own pocketbooks. And if you watched what happened, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump had a data center meeting where he had Governor Kemp up there. He had CEO of Southern Company, Chris Womack, a bunch of utility executives, and they made a ratepayer protection pledge. And that's something. Now they're gonna, we're concerned about power bills, we're concerned about data centers. But of course, as our, what do you call him, DJT? As DJT likes to do, he says the quiet part out loud. Because who knows? Maybe because he's really old and he's losing it. Or he's just that kind of person. He can't help himself. And I'll have to send y'all the clip. We're going to do a little social media packaging of this in the next day or two, because it was so enlightening of what's really going on. He made a comment and he said to Chris Womack, quote, "We made a lot of people in that room down there in Atlanta really rich, didn't we, Chris?" So I have a question for y'all. Were y'all in that room? I didn't think so. So I'm just imagining there was some wealthy, I'm probably in Buckhead somewhere in some country club back room. There might have been some cigars, right? Some scotch being passed around, because the Southern Company had record earnings last year. And the utility executives made record amounts of money. Tens of millions of dollars. So here's the value proposition that we're dealing with, is we have Peter and Alicia on the inside, but they can't do anything unless we get that 3rd vote. And so that's why this PSC power ticket is so important. We've got to reelect Peter Hubbard for a 6-year term, and then Shelia Edwards is the critical third vote. So this is going to be a recurring theme you're going to hear. So let me just give you all some prepared remarks, and I would love to engage y'all for any questions, ideas, thoughts y'all have on these issues. So first off, just a little background. I am a county commissioner in DeKalb County. I see my fellow colleague from Douglas County Commission here, Martin Raxton. Good to see you, Commissioner. And one thing that me and him can tell y'all, that when you go to the ACCG conference, the National Association of County Officials conference, everyone is talking about data centers. And we're dealing with it in DeKalb County. Are y'all dealing with it in Douglas? Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. This is the other issue of the day that is related to affordability, and I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. So in DeKalb County, we've been dealing with this, and I'm actually a little bit hot this morning because yesterday at 4 o'clock, we actually got an email from our law department that said that Shadowbox, which is a company that is trying to build what would actually, if they ever build it, would be the largest data center in Georgia, bigger than the Effingham County one that they just announced with OpenAI, is suing DeKalb County because they're saying that our moratorium is illegal. And so if y'all track this, a lot of cities and counties around the state and around the country have enacted moratoriums. Why? Because they're trying to create guardrails. They're trying to create protections for the community. You let someone come in, any industrial user come in with no regulations, that is a recipe for disaster. And we've seen that in Memphis, where Elon Musk said, screw the community in Memphis, I just need to power my data center. And so you got pop-up power plants happening over there, and then now you're seeing it, in Covington, just got announced. You read the news about that. The EPD's looking into it, but we know who runs the EPD, the Republican majority. So I don't expect much from them. And so they're suing us. They're saying the moratorium is illegal. And let's be clear, the data center companies, the folks who are behind this, this is basically what they call the next industrial revolution, right? And it's scary for a lot of people because there's a lot of existential issues with it. But what it means in the short term is these folks have a lot of money and a lot of lawyers. And they're going to try to pick apart what the community, what all of y'all want to see, which is protections. And it goes from the local level all the way up to the PSC. So I'm gonna focus mostly on what the PSC's role is when it comes to affordability and data centers, but understand that there's sort of multiple things happening here. So when you talk about local county commission, city council, state house, state senate, governor, and PSC, these issues are all connected. And I will tie those together for y'all. So what's going on right now at the PSC is the Republican majority is basically a rubber stamp for the utility. Even though that election sent a message, I think, to folks all over the state in this country, because Peter and Elisa won with 61% of the vote. Yes. That's a landslide, okay? Yes. That is a landslide election. What did the 5-member Republicans, even the 2 outgoing ones, Fitz Johnson and Tim Echols, what did they do in December? They still voted for 10,000 megawatts of new power supply for data centers in Georgia. 2/3 of that power, by the way, is fossil fuel plants, which are expensive, dirty, polluting, and are something that we would have to pay for 45 years. Okay, and that's a whole other ball of wax, but when you build a big old power plant, you don't just spend $20 billion, you borrow money from future ratepayers. So that 10,000 megawatts, and that's just enough to satisfy a portion of the demand that is already in the pipeline. So there's more requests coming down the pipeline from Georgia Power, from the PSC. But they approved that 5-0 and act like it was great. Everything was hunky-dory. And so what ends up happening, and this is the term of art they use, so the utilities asked to pass the cost of their grid expansion. When the utilities are asked to pass their cost of their grid expansion down to everyday citizens, the Republican majority don't even blink. They approve it. And they use terms like infrastructure cost recovery or grid stabilization adjustments. This is the fun part about going to the PSC, is you get to learn all the technical jargon, which is really just like, we want to make money, and y'all ought to pay for it. And they say they love reliability. Has anyone seen the ads from Georgia Power? Okay. Now, this is a great opening for any of us to talk to anyone between now and Election Day who we're just trying to engage on this election. Simple question. Hey, have your power bills gone up? You could ask anyone on the street, in the grocery store, at the farmer's market, at the door, on the phone, and I guarantee you they'll say, yeah. And then you could say, you know why that is, right? The Republican majority on the Public Service Commission has rubber stamped every single rate hike that the Georgia Powers asked for. And then they have the gall to give us propaganda saying we've lowered your power bills. I know. It's funny, isn't it? Like, it's funny to us. I guarantee you it's funny to a lot of people out there. So let me put that in plain English for y'all to just to further emphasize it. The GOP majority on the PSC is forcing you, the working families of Georgia, to subsidize the massive power demands of corporate data centers by jacking up your monthly energy bills. They are, and they have been voting time and time again to take your hard-earned money to protect corporate profits. It's as simple as that. So the question really becomes, what would you do? What would you do? If you had a seat at the table, and these are people that are supposed to represent the public, right? So hopefully they're listening to you. But if you had a seat at the table, would you let Republican politicians rubber stamp these expansions?
No.
Would you let them drain our grid?
No.
Would you let them pass on these costs down to our local residents?
No.
Or would you stand up, would you hold them accountable, and would you protect ratepayers?
Yes.
Okay. This is exactly what this fight is about this year. So right now on the Public Service Commission, like I said, Peter Hubbard's in there, Elisa Johnson's there, but electing Peter Hubbard and Shelia Edwards, that critical third vote, is what we need. We are campaigning together. So Peter and Shelia, they're not here today because they're in Augusta, and they got to be in Henry County later, and then another place later. So they're literally going all over the state because these issues are being discussed everywhere. Like, we're going to Henry County and the CSRA, so the Augusta Columbia area, mostly talking about data centers, right? We're campaigning together because, one, we have to win together. If Peter gets reelected and Shelia doesn't win, it's still the same equation. It's 2 votes for Democrats, 3 for Republicans, and they're in control for at least another 2 years. If we win this election, we lock in a 3-2 majority for 4 years. All right, that's very important to understand. There's another election in 2 years for 2 more seats, but we can go ahead and lock it in right now. It's a 6-year term for the PSC. Dr. Johnson got a 5-year term, okay? So when Peter, Shelia all come in January, they got 6 years, Alicia's got 4 years. This is a lot. That's 2 rate cases, it's 1 IRP, and there's a bunch of things in the margins that basically relate to more solar power, grid protection, capacity protections. There's a great proposal right now that all y'all, because we're in a church right now, like there's a program called MUSH, all right, and it stands for municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals, but it basically just means institutions to allow them to do a solar and battery backup program. Basically, in essence, creating microgrids all over the state. Now, this was something that the environmental advocates advocated for like 4 years ago in the last IRP, and Georgia Power is just now getting around to it. But what this literally would mean is a school, a church, a city hall, a county, commission courthouse, a university, a community center could basically be a part of the Georgia Power plan. The rate base would pay for solar and battery, and one, it would be able to deliver clean energy on site, but then when the grid needed additional power, that battery backup would basically is a 2-way street. And so it allows for churches like this or schools, one, to save money on their power bills, but also to become resilience hubs and to basically protect and support the grid in the nearby neighborhood. They only approved 50 megawatts. And remember earlier I said 10,000 megawatts for new data centers? So you can see their priorities, right? Policies that would create clean energy, a more resilient grid, and lower our power bills get 50 megawatts. And then the ones that are the polluting energy sources are upwards of 10,000 megawatts. So the chart would be this little tiny thing, and then the 10, and then there's even more coming down the pipeline. So, like I said, Peter Hubbard's already on the inside. He's doing the work. As your current public service commissioner, Peter has been the loudest voice in the room challenging these rate hikes. He is fighting tooth and nail against the Republican commissioners, even though he's trying to be nice with them. He is disagreeing with them because, one, he's consistently said that we need more energy affordability for working families. He wants to see more clean energy, and in Georgia, that means solar power. Solar power is the cheapest, fastest deployable energy right now. It is eating the lunch of every coal plant, natural gas plant. It is the cheapest form of energy. So if you want to lower power bills, what do you have to do? Install solar. Simple as that. And we need solar everywhere. We're actually the third best state in the country for solar. Can you imagine, like, if we were, in olden days, if we were like the third best state for oil? You think we'd be drilling for oil, right? Let's drill the sun. Drill, baby, drill. The sun is here, and we've got plenty of land. We've got plenty of rooftops all over the state. Shelia Edwards. So Shelia Edwards is stepping up to join him, and she is a fierce, uncompromising advocate committed to protecting everyday ratepayers. Sheila understands that when a family's energy bills skyrocket, it means making impossible choices at the grocery store, at the pharmacy. We're literally hearing people saying it's like paying the rent, paying the grocery bills, paying the power bill. These are all the bills that people are factoring in to whether they're going to make ends meet each month. She's running to ensure that the PSC stops acting like rubber stamps for the GOP corporate allies and starts acting as a shield for Georgia's consumers. Because the honest truth is the PSC doesn't need approval from Congress, doesn't need approval from a governor, the state house, state senate. The PSC is its own independent body. They can lower power bills simply with a 3-vote decision. So this is the power that we have right now. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine a Georgia where your monthly power bill isn't a source of anxiety. And it might not be necessarily anxiety for y'all in this room, but there's a lot of people out there where they don't even want to open that bill. In fact, actually, it's gotten so bad in recent years that Georgia Power leads the nation in utility disconnections. 150,000 disconnections on average every year. And the last Republican majority was like, oh, we have some of the lowest rates in Georgia. Well, if we have some of the lowest, in the nation, if we have some of the lowest rates in the nation, why do we have the highest disconnects? So it just goes to show you that there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. I want you to picture a resilient, modern energy grid fueled by clean, expanding solar power. Imagine a state where local governments are partnering with the Public Service Commission to ensure that there's protections on these data centers, and that with a newly flipped Public Service Commission, ensure that everyday residents never have to subsidize the corporate energy, I say gluttony, but that's a little, I don't want to be like too negative, but they're just making a lot of money, y'all, okay? This future is entirely within our reach, but we have to vote for it. We have to vote for it. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, the Public Service Commission is on the statewide ballot, but it's like at the very bottom this year. So last year, Peter and Elisa were the main show. Now we're, I think, on the 3rd page. You got to hit the little button, next page, next page, next page, and you get the PSC. So we expect there might be some drop-off, but we hope that by delivering this message, we will encourage folks to come out to vote for the PSC, because they realize that if they vote for Peter and Sheila, we will be able to lower their power bills. And if they come to vote for Peter and Sheila, they got to get through Ossoff and Keisha Lance Bottoms and Josh McLaurin and Tanya Miller, and I don't have the whole roster in front of me, but you know all the statewide guys and gals. So the bottom line is we cannot stop these utility rate hikes. We cannot hold anyone accountable. We cannot protect our local communities from unchecked infrastructure strain under the current leadership. But this year we have the power to change the math by electing Peter and Sheila. We can flip the commission to a 3-2 majority that works for the people, not the powerful. So here's what I want you to remember. This is so key. Flipping the PSC to a 3-2 majority makes Peter Hubbard and Shelia Edwards the ultimate firewall, along with Dr. Johnson, for Georgia ratepayers. And with your help, it's time that we take our power back. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Commissioner, I'll let you go first.
All right,
Yes,
thank you.
Commissioner.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
What is Sheila's as well as Peter's position on data centers?
So the issue right now, okay, so Peter and Sheila are supporting what Keisha Lance Bottoms has called for, which is a pause on data centers. And this is a really interesting moment in our politics in America right now, because you have 2 sitting governors, Kathy Hochul in New York and Greg Abbott in Texas. New York passed a moratorium. Governor Abbott, and this guy's a far-right Republican, he just said we need to pause all data center construction until we can audit all of them, because they're seeing that the data centers are in fact causing tremendous strain. So, you know, you can kind of play around with the word moratorium and pause. I like pause because honestly, when you do voter communications, it's best not to bring in SAT words. You know, we just need, like, people are anxious about data centers. I don't want to spend the next 87 days trying to convince someone, well, oh, some of them are good and some of them are, you know, like, voters don't need to be educated right now. Voters know where they stand on power bills and data centers. And if we cannot win this election, we'll have no power to address any of those issues. So right now, it's a pause. And the main factor of why that pause is so important is because of the quote-unquote rate freeze that the Georgia Power has been talking about. The rate case got pushed back to 2028. So that means, like, the PSC literally can't open up the hood to see what's really going on. When you do a rate freeze, it means it's status quo. So Peter and Elisa actually really can't hone in on whether data centers are paying their fair share. Georgia Power says it, Donald Trump says it, you know, all the people that are making money off of this say, oh, don't worry about it. But we literally do not know that because we can't open it up in a rate case. So this is a really crucial message point. I would encourage all of us to support Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's called for a pause. Peter and Sheila have called for a pause. This is the right message right now. At the end of the day, a lot of these data center development concerns are local issues, right? It's zoning, it's land use, it's land development code. But what Peter and Sheila have consistently said is, if a data center is going to be built, and if a local community approves it, and as y'all saw in Effingham County, I mean, Effingham was like, bring them on down, you know, and now they're getting ready to recall those commissioners. So, you know, I guess that's their choice. But the biggest concern is that we're building these massive fossil fuel plants. It's polluting our environment. We know it's more expensive energy, all right? And if any of this new demand is going to be, you know, needs to be built, you've got to build solar energy. You've got to do renewable. You got to do battery backup. That's the best way. We have to protect our climate and our environment. And that's literally the control the PSC has. It's where the power comes from. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so they're asking for a pause.
Yeah.
And I know that we're talking about at the state level too, and we're hoping that the General Assembly also takes that up in the next session as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so anyone else running for State House, State Senate, Representative Alexander, like, let's factor that into our messaging. I've seen a lot of polling over the last few months that just basically says Republicans and Democrats either have concerns about data centers, anxiety, and there's a whole host of polls that point to the electorate majority saying we need to slow this down. And I think that's the right approach right now. I'll let you pick the next folks.
Susan Dewey.
Susan.
I have found that we toss the term around data center. so generic. But in doing a little research here in the county, I found one of our data centers, it has 30 jet engine turbines running it.
The HVACs, yeah.
Yes, 30 of them. It is so deafening, the sound is so deafening, and it is so
Yeah.
hot inside that when they have to pull a part off of it, they use drones because a human can't stand it. It is guarded by more human beings are guarding this facility than working there with machine guns here in Douglas County. We don't hear about what happens after we put them in. So now we've got armed guys with machine guns.
Yeah. Ouch, jeez.
It's Amazon.
That's the first time I've
Okay,
heard- oh.
No,
Okay.
not Amazon, I'm sorry, it's another, Switch.
Okay.
With
Top secret data.
Yes, and that's my point. It's not just a data center. It's a lot more than just a data center. It's a new way of life.
Yeah.
They're not hiring our local people to work there. They make promises they don't keep. They make promises that the Board of Commissioners can't possibly enforce because it's all civil. So we have to be real careful. It's more than just a data center. It's a new way of life that we're looking at. And
Yeah.
I'd like to know, do you have any information about battery storage data centers? Because this is the new one. They have been courting Douglas County for the last year. It's been coming across my feed. You know, we're looking to put a battery storage center in your community. What do you think? And
Yeah.
nice AI picture of the happy couple.
Yeah.
So what battery storage? What is that?
Well, I think this is based on what the Southern Environmental Law Center had brought up last year when they were talking about the 10,000 megawatts of new power. So what you're finding is these data centers want like 99.9% grid resiliency, which means that and this is something the AJC actually reported on last week, all of the diesel generators in Georgia that are connected to data centers actually could power the entire grid themselves. Okay, so just imagine how many diesel generators. These are diesel generators, which means they run on diesel, which is a dirty fuel. You know, and don't be confused by like anything that says like natural gas, right? It is a fossil gas, all right? It is carbon emissions, there's particulate pollution. But the diesel generators to me are like, it's more like a question of if a community's gonna build a data center, you know, like please don't install any more diesel generators. Like the battery backups are the technology is there. But the issue is that they're required to test these generators like 10, 20 hours a month. So that just means that throughout any given week, if you live like within earshot or, you know, the ozone radius of like 4 miles, you know, they're shooting off emissions to test the generators.
So that little border of trees that they put out is not enough, is it?
I mean, you know, and you mentioned the jet turbines, which, you know, are the HVACs. And, you know, I mean, HVACs are just heat pumps, right? They take hot air out of the building that has the data centers in it. So the Arizona State University study that came out in May was really concerning because now that data centers have been up and running for a few years, they're seeing that the third of a mile, so 1,700 feet, which, you know, is like not too large, but it's, you know, pretty large. The ambient environmental temperature is 4 degrees hotter. And then if you got a mile, it's about a 1 degree increase. So, you know, like, I mean, I don't know if y'all have noticed this, and, you know, I'm from Florida, so I'm like used to the hot weather. But when I moved to Atlanta in 2005, there were 4 seasons. Okay, but then whatever reason, this 5th season popped up in the last few years because of climate change. So there was fall, winter, spring, summer, and then August is hell's front porch. So can you imagine if you lived within that mile radius during the 100 degree, I mean, and by the way, the leading cause of death related to climate change is heat. Okay, and it's not something happening in, you know, less developed nations. People are dying in America, they're dying in France, Well, they don't have as many AC units in France. That's another story. But and so picture this, right? This is like this is what Peter and Sheila have been talking about when it comes to high power bills and the data center issue. So if you're increasing, so one, we're burning more fossil fuels, so that's increasing temperatures. If you live near a data center, then the temperatures are even hotter. And then, oh, by the way, your power bill is a lot higher. So does that mean you lose your power, it gets cut off, right? You're one of the 155,000 people that are getting disconnected every year. Or you just can't afford the power bill, so you might turn it off from time to time. Or you might just say, I just can't run it at all, I'll use a fan. Right? You do the old, the redneck AC, a bucket of ice and a fan. But this is the recipe for disaster. Is the most vulnerable people in our community, mostly seniors, are at risk here. If they're on a fixed income, they can't pay that power bill. It's getting hotter and hotter. At some point, there's going to be a transition where it's so hot, either they don't have AC, can't run it, can't afford it, and then people start getting heat stroke. And unfortunately, that's sort of the steps to before where you have heat-related death. So there's all these factors really tie in together, and this is why Peter's been saying a whole government approach, right? So like the General Assembly, like y'all had dozens of data center bills that just wouldn't even get a hearing hardly. There was one bill that actually something that Peter had worked with State Rep Amani Barnes on, and that's balcony solar. Y'all ever heard of balcony solar? Y'all should check that out, okay? So it's basically plug-in solar. And in Germany, they got 1 million balcony solar, plug-in solar units in that country. And literally just think about it this way. If you're a renter, or if you're just a homeowner and you can't afford like a full-fledged solar system, but you got like a sunny backyard or a sunny front porch, you can go to like a Costco, buy a solar panel, like that big, with a little inverter kit, can hang it on your balcony, put it out in your backyard, and literally you can plug it into a socket in your house, and that power from that one solar panel will come into your house and will be part of your power supply. 5 to 10%, right? But the payback time is 2 years for that versus a whole solar system right now under the Georgia Power solar plan is 15 years, and sometimes it's 20 years. So and if you're a renter, you can't control the landlord, or they don't do solar, you're SOL. But that literally, if a renter wanted to buy a solar panel and they rented at one apartment or house, they could rent, put it up, they move, they could pick up that solar panel, walk it over, and go to the next house, right? Guess who got in the way of us passing that bill? Amani Barnes literally was at Representative Don Parsons' Energy Committee. Well, I'll send y'all the tape. Actually, Patty Duran did a good little splice up of Rep. Parsons, who basically, I'm sorry to speak ill of your colleague, Representative Alexander, but that guy's been there for way too long, and he's the chair of the Energy Committee, and you should have seen him. He's like, well, I don't understand how any of this works. And we had Georgia Power and the EMCs and the Public Service Commissioners all come down saying, oh no, this is going to electrocute linemen and it's going to start fires. By the way, like the chance with all the technology with these plug-in solar systems, it's like a 99.9% safety rating. Okay, like no one's caught on fire in Germany after 1 million balcony solar panels. And and Utah passed it. So basically, like as Georgia was just like shutting it down with like 5 minutes at a hearing, 10 other states passed balcony solar legislation this year. And why would the power company and why would the public service commissioners not want energy freedom? Why would they not want? Because they're going to lose their profits. Thank you. Exactly. It all comes back to the money. And we're talking about 5-10% of your power bill. But man, are these people so greedy? Are they so greedy? Okay, good. I know some in the past, and y'all don't apply to this, but they say it's like not polite to talk about politics, right? Y'all ever heard that? Okay, when there's an election coming up, when the stakes are this high, don't worry about being polite. We have clear evidence, facts, the record. if you talk to anyone out there, hey, are your power bills too high? And they say yes, you have just opened the door to saying, you know what, we got to elect Peter and Sheila. Because with that 3-2 majority, we can lock in a pro-consumer majority for 4 years. We will lower your power bills, expand clean energy, and control data centers. That's the message.
Explain how they're gonna roll the how are they gonna move out?
Okay, so all right, this is a great question. All right, so there's two things that,
Because they're gonna ask, people are gonna ask.
all right, there's two things that the PSC can do to lower your power bills. One is they could not vote for rate increases. That literally is an option. You could just say Georgia Power is asking for a rate increase to pay for X, Y, and Z. The majority could say no. Okay, now functionally, how do you do that? Because if the state's growing and we want to support economic development, we will need new power, right? Data centers aside, there are homes being built and other businesses happening. So if we're going to build new power plants, let's use the cheapest and fastest deployable energy that's available in the world. That's solar energy. Georgia is the 3rd best state for solar. We should be leading the country in solar. Okay? And then the final thing that is a very touchy subject, but it is something that is in the poll numbers. The majority of voters actually believe that their power bills are high because corporate profits are high, because executive compensation is high. So if the PSC says we're going to actually lower the profit margins that are allowed under law, then we can lower power bills, because Georgia Power can sometimes get from a 9 upwards of a 12% return on equity. And all that means from a practical standpoint is if you invest in the Southern Company, you are basically guaranteed a rate of return. And there's a thing they call in Wall Street, they call them dividend kings and queens. Just look up that term. There's a group of companies out there that have given a dividend for every year for more than 20 years. Southern Company goes back to the early 1990s, like 1991. They have given a dividend to their shareholders every single year. How can they do that? Well, because they have guaranteed profits. Okay, so that's the answer to your question. It's cleaner energy, literally lower rates, but if the utility just didn't profit as much.
So they can legally lower their dividends, is that what you're saying?
They can lower their return on equity.
Return on equity?
Yes, ma'am. Great question.
Just one last question. I know that there are some really great leaders there and commissioners in DeKalb County that say we're not going to have data centers come into neighborhoods, into the community, close to where individuals are living. What are some of the other best practices DeKalb County is doing specifically related to combating data centers even coming to planning and zoning?
So I think the number one protection that any local city or county can do is require a special land use permit. Don't let anything be by right. Because even if you do a data center ordinance and set all the regulations, you still have to make sure it makes sense. And this is coming from the Commissioner Mike Turner in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is like the data center capital of the world. And his advice at the last NACO session, I think you were there, Martin, he's like, whatever you do or don't do, make sure that you have a special land use permit. That means it has to go through a public hearing and a public vote. If you make anything by right, that's the recipe for slipping things in or for something that you can't hold them accountable to. Because the bottom line is a special land use permit is a special land use permit. It's special. And if you violate the terms and conditions of a SLUP, they call it, in some of the places they call it a SUP, but basically you have to have a permit, and if the permit gets violated, right, there's a mechanism for the government to pull that permit. And that's kind of the backstop. So I would always start with that. There's a bunch of distance requirements, stormwater, closed loop this, and noise, there's a whole other host of issues, but if you don't have the special land use permit in place, then you can't negotiate all these other things that would protect the community. Great.
Just a real
last
quick
one.
Okay,
question.
yes.
These PSC candidates, they will not have a
They will. They're Democrats. Yes, Peter will have the incumbent next to his name, Sheila. It's an open seat. She's running against Josh Tolbert, who we think is just going to be another rubber stamp for the Republican majority. But yeah, it is partisan race, and and we're all on the same ticket, y'all. So again, from the top, from Ossoff down to Keisha, down to Peter and Sheila, we got to vote the whole ticket.
And even though it looks like they're in different zones, everybody can vote.
And it's
for any
statewide.
PSC.
That's right. Yeah, everyone will see it on their ballot. So please help us spread the word. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I don't know. I'm getting a little anxious. Two things I want to bring up that occurred to me while he was speaking. I want to piggyback on something that Jeanette brought up when it comes to the data, because one of the things that has hit the news cycle within the last week or two is that some of these AI components have gotten out of their cage and have started hacking other sites, which is terrifying. I mean, now we're really getting into the whole Skynet thing, right? Like, sooner or later, a naked Schwarzenegger is going to come to my door and ask for my clothes. That's right. It's the best model.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
Well, that's because I have so much leather. I really don't. I have a jacket. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, because one of the other things that you're going to be seeing on social media now is ads promoting the construction of a battery storage facility. And that is actually up for a rezoning right now. Now, I want to mention this in particular because while it sounds innocuous, the fact is that these facilities require specialized firefighting apparatus in case things go south. This impacts you directly because if your fire department does not spend that money to get the specialized equipment necessary, your homeowner's insurance will climb. The integrity of your fire department is directly tied to your homeowner's insurance policies. So when this comes up, this is something that I want you to keep in mind. It may sound like it's innocuous, it may sound like it couldn't hurt us, but you have to have the investment to handle it in case. So, ma'am.
There was a car on I-20, a Tesla. The battery exploded. Shut the interstate down. 7 hours, one car. Imagine the data center going up. Battery storage.
A thing that I had never really thought of was these lithium-ion batteries that power these vehicles don't deal well with corrosion, which is salt water. So I was surprised to find out how many fire departments were going through before hurricanes and getting these Teslas and electric vehicles out of people's garages because when the flood hits, kaboom. We had no idea that we were doing something good for the environment that was going to blow up in our face. All right, well, I'm going to keep things trucking. I've got a couple of candidates here that I want to give the floor to say a few words. We also have our congressional district chair from our state party that I wanted to make sure has time. So may I start with the state party, ma'am? Would you like to speak?
I will start.
By all means.
Good morning. Is it still morning? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am Elisa Lassiter. I have met a lot of you here, but for the ones I haven't met, I am running for House District 40. A piece of Paulding, a piece of Douglas is the way I like to describe it. And of course, it's hard to follow up with our PSC representative. The data center issue is also occurring in Paulding. So a lot of things he brought up. I think that elected officials should really, really focus on what is balanced for a community, what brings sustainability. And these data centers have proven that they will not. There is one proposed to be built about 5 miles from my home, and there has been a moratorium put in place. I inherently feel that it's because it's election season, right? So the moratorium is put in place. Everything is all gone through except for the sale. There are Paulding County sheriffs guarding this property. I drive by every day just to check. we have to speak out. This affects our community. It affects our legacies. It does. There are studies out that have proven that data centers are affecting the behavioral health of our children. There are not enough studies out to show what the long-term residual effects are. Paulding County commissioners have requested that citizens bring the research to them via email. So they have approved these data centers. We've shown up to the meetings for months. They finally put a moratorium on them 2 weeks ago, and they're saying, you all bring the research. Wow. Which is very backwards from what he spoke of. So I ask all of you to vote down ballot. I am not a career politician. I'm a public servant. I came out of federal government last September under the current administration. I've served the public all of my career. Data centers was not my platform. I'm used to working with citizens, constituents on a macro level as far as like utility bills, working with LIHEAP, which have also incurred less monies from the Southern Company and all of these companies for the low income. So LIHEAP, low income energy assistance program, they don't have the funds either. So when these data centers erupt in your communities, what are seniors going to do? I want you to ask yourselves, what would I do? I don't come from a performative standpoint at all. I am completely authentic. I am used to working with people, directly with people on all issues, all socioeconomic levels. I've worked from East Cobb to down in Atlanta in the Vine City area. So I know what these things are doing to people. My first platforms were, of course, education, because I have a school-aged child. Healthcare, because I have a school-aged child with not special needs, like emergency surgeries. I'm headed today to CHOA. So I had to come here today and have to go to Paulding's meeting, but my husband is taking her to CHOA emergency in a little while. Those are the issues that affect constituents that we need to be concerned about. Data centers absolutely should not, but now that we are here, we have to stand up and we have to do what is right, not only for ourselves, but for our legacies. We want to be able to breathe. We don't know the long-term residual effects. They don't know. Your leaders don't know. The commissioners don't know. Nobody knows. It's just a money-making ploy for somebody, the one percenters. And I want you all to think about that. I always say that the best marketing is to continue to repeat things to people. Continue to repeat things to people until they believe it. We need to do some dissecting, and we need to do some researching ourselves. You can find this information. You can read for yourselves and make the decision to do the right thing. And we always tell our voters, vote down ballot, go through these 4 pages. Yes, we do want you to do that. We want you to research the candidates and know exactly what you are voting for and what they stand for. But we also want you to go all the way to those referendums that they put at the end as well, because they often get overlooked, and that's an issue as well. So I'm running again for District 40 House Representative, Paulding, a little Hiram, Douglasville, and Dallas. And then Douglas County, I call it the red side. So Bill Arp on this side down to 166. And I, again, am a public servant. I believe in representing the people. I will stand for the people. I will be there, and I will listen. That's the most important thing. I come from a social work counseling background, so that's my personal and professional thing. That's what I do, and I believe that I will serve you well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Our thoughts are with your kid. Godspeed. And now I want to bring up, if I may, our District 4 Commission candidate, the Democrat in that race, Mr. Gil McDougal.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Tony. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is a beautiful day, and you all have taken your time to come here and just learn about everything. I appreciate all the information you gave us for the PSC. I think that is hugely important. I won't take up a lot of time up here. You can find me at gilmcdougal.com. You can learn more about me. I want to talk about data centers just for a second, though. Only to say this. Several weeks ago, we put out a statement, a position on data centers, calling for a moratorium for at least a year in Douglas County. And frankly, we did that because Douglas County already has too many data centers, and we don't know what the long-term impacts are of those. So I wanted to say that right up front. Like I said, I'm going to be brief here. You can find out more information, and I'll wait after this is over to talk one-on-one with anybody who has any questions. But I spent 10 years as a foster parent here in Douglas County. I have my own children. I have a 31-year-old who is trying to make it in this world, and I'm telling you that affordability hits all of us. I remember in the fall of 24, when the presidential race was coming up, I had a friend of mine who would regularly send me his grocery bill to show me how high the cost of groceries were. I haven't seen any of those bills come in anymore to show me what they look like today, because the idea was if we elect DJT, those bills were going to go down, and they didn't go down. They went up. So what I'm saying to you is affordability is on the forefront of everybody's mind. I have an 18-year-old who just graduated high school on the 19th, the same night of the primary here in May, and he's struggling right out of the gate. So folks, we've got to be thinking about what happens to our children. And I need your help in District 4, because in District 4, for far too long, they have been complacent and just allowed almost anything to happen. And I'm here to be a voice for District 4, and I'm here to be a partner on the county commission. So that's all I'm going to say now, because I know we all have our Saturdays. We want to do what we want to do with our families. But I will hang around after this, and if anybody has any questions, want to talk to me one-on-one. Thank you, Tony.
Greetings, everyone. I'm City Councilman Devetrion Caldwell. So grateful to be here. Great information, but I think that one of the touch points or the takeaway is that it's very critical. We have to make sure that we are disseminating information so that our residents know. Ultimately, we're going to make sure that we're listening to the people. We talked about data centers and different things like that, different efforts that can happen at the state, but we really, really have to stick together. We have to be strategic. We have to be open for conversation and making sure that we're sharing information on behalf of the people that benefits us all, right? So we can't continue to operate in silos. You hear me saying that all the time. Even at the state level, it's so critical. We continue to see what's happening, but we have to move beyond those silos and just continue to work together for the greater good of Douglas County and the state. So thank you, guys.
Question? Yes.
I just want to ask you if you would remind us of when your meetings are, and if it's virtual, and if we can access that, how we access it.
Yes, ma'am. So it's going to be the first and third week of the month. So we have a Thursday meeting, and then Monday is typically our voting meeting. You can access it on the City of Douglasville's website as well. It is streamed, and of course, we welcome to see you in person as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Good. All right. Commissioner?
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, good morning. I'm Martin Raxton, your Commissioner of District 3, and I just want to remind everyone that we're doing our first public hearing on the millage rate this Monday at 10 a.m. And right now, we have not, or and you've seen the notification that right now there is a movement to maintain the millage rate at the current rate. So I just want to make sure. This on the 10th. On the 10th at 10 a.m. So that's one thing. Secondly, you're going to be seeing very shortly notifications on the T-Splosh meetings in the communities. So please, when you see those notifications, please come out to learn more about the T-Splosh that will be on this year's ballot in November, so you can get a better understanding of what's being proposed this year for the infrastructure and the different roles and improvements that's being looked at and being proposed for the T-Splosh, okay? Also in District 3, I'm gonna take that opportunity to do my next town hall in addition to the upcoming T-Splosh. And when those dates are announced, we'll certainly make sure that everyone knows here in the party. So again, just wanted to make those announcements. I will also stay after if you have any individual questions of myself. And thank you for all that you're doing for Douglas County.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, and I was just informed that coming this Saturday, not today, next Saturday, at the Starbucks on Chapel Hill Road, we're going to be doing an off sign waving. Turn out on the corners, what time? 10 a.m. till noon, 10 a.m. till noon.